Awesome. Thank you, Walters. You're joining from the UK. Great. So let's know where everyone is joining from. Hello, Jenna from New Jersey. And I see Ahmad from Malaysia, Clifford from Ghana. There's Rahul from Bangalore and Mordecai from Colombia. You're all welcome. It's great to see you all here today. Can we have more participants turn on their cameras? Awesome. Thank you, Pratik. Let's have more of you turn on your cameras. And so if you're a study group lead here today, it would be amazing to know you. If you could please put it in the chat. Let us know if you're a study group lead, and also feel free to drop the link to your study group. Make sure to add the location, your location, and the time zone, right? Please add the location and the time zone. If you're a study group lead, do let us know. And if you haven't already joined a study group, I think it's a good time and a good opportunity to join one. Awesome. So feel free to look in the chat. Great. And if you want to sign up to be a study group lead, there's a link in the chat from Pray. Feel free to use that link and sign up to be a study group lead. Hello, Melanie. Hi. So our speaker for today's Thursday speaker session is Thy-Diep, who is also fondly known as Yip. I'm sure she'll be here any moment from now. But while we are waiting, I think it's a good opportunity to hear from every one of you on how your learning has gone so far with the documents that have been curated for you on the course platform. So please feel free to put it in the chat, because everyone is unmuted, so we don't get background distractions, right? So everyone is muted right now, you're unable to unmute your mics, but you can put it in the chat. Or maybe okay, you can put it in the chat, yeah. So thank you all so much, and welcome, Yip. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'll just quickly make you a co-host so you can unmute your mic. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Yip, for joining us today. It's really amazing to see. Awesome. So everyone, we have our speaker for today's speaker session here with us, who will be speaking to us on the decentralized Internet of Value. Thy-Diep, fondly known as Yip, is the head of programs, and she's also an award-winning blockchain influencer who is known for her work in educating thousands of students in blockchain literacy and providing several hundreds of scholarships to women to attend global blockchain conferences. Previously, Yip has led strategy and digital transformation for the world's leading banks and insurance providers at McKinsey & Co. She's the author of the entrepreneurship book, Beautiful Brains, and she holds an MBA from INSEAD Business School. So thank you so much once more, Yip, for joining us today. It's really amazing. And please, you have the floor.
Okay. Thank you very much, Agama. It's always a pleasure to kick off the new cohort. Oh, maybe I start over again. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to cohort 15 of Unit Masters program. It's wonderful and amazing to see how many people are here with us today and dialing in from all across the globe. Congratulations that you made it to the first session of our 6-week signature program. My name is Deep, as mentioned before, and I was one of the founders of this program. I founded it because I noticed when I entered blockchain, that was not too long ago, that was only 2020, so 3 years ago. And I noticed all information available is so unstructured that it would take forever to find your way through this jungle. So we don't have forever time because technology is evolving. And if people who are new to the ecosystem don't onboard very fast, then we cannot close the gap between those who are already in the ecosystem and those who are outside. And what I noticed when I first joined the ecosystem, the Web3 ecosystem, is that when I go to all these conferences, watch the videos, mainly there were only male speakers, male participants, and mainly Western, like white male, I would say Americans, like just simplified. Of course, things are more complex than that. But I noticed, hey, where are all the women? Where are all the other parts of the world, representatives of other parts of the world than Western Europe or Northern America? Right? I couldn't find them. So I said, okay, let's fix a systemic issue. The systemic issue is that we have a technology that is called Web3 that is most likely here to stay, because this technology is not only a technology, it's not only an innovation on technological side, but it's also a social innovation. It's disruptive, as is the internet, as has been the iPhone 2008 to our everyday lives. And it has the potential to bring financial inclusion to many billions of unbanked people, right? To have everyone participate in an economy that is made for everyone and not only for a small share of the population. So I was like, okay, let's fix that and create education programs that are easy to understand and that help you onboard as fast as you can. And the outcome is Unit Masters, which is a 6 weeks program. And it's already quite ambitious, but I'm pretty sure if you follow the everyday weeks homeworks and assignments and participate in the study groups that are run by a very dedicated, beautiful crew of volunteers, shining the light to others and sharing the joy of facilitating group discussions with other new joiners in the ecosystem, then at the end of 6 weeks, pretty confident you will have reached the state of blockchain literacy and are ready to find your sweet spot in that very fascinating economy of tomorrow. So what is Web3? Or maybe I start about myself. Agama has already introduced me briefly. I have a passion for 3 things. It's women, well-being, and Web3. Women, I mean women empowerment. I see this technology so important, and I want to really close the gender equity gap. So one of the things I've done is create scholarship programs and hackathons and hacker houses and so on to bring women into the ecosystem, because when I started, there were only 5 to 8% women. And if we want to create technology and ecosystems and economy for everyone in the world, we need to include everyone. Right? So that's the first topic I really care about. The second topic I care about is well-being. Well-being is a skill set, the skill of knowing how to be in the present moment, how to live fully, right? And then what is the well? The well part is to identify for yourself what is the guiding light that helps you understand or stand under the mission in your life. So that's well-being. I care a lot about it. I have a training company called Balanced Being, where we also create exercises and group trainings for people to tap into the center or the core of their being. And then third, I care about Web3, and this is the topic for today. So what is Web3? We would say Web3 is what we call the Internet of Value. And it's maybe the third generation of the internet, where the first one was a network that was used for exchange of information between different universities, research organizations, to share knowledge with each other. Right? That was the first iteration. You could access the internet to gain access to information in a standardized, more or less standardized way. Then Web 2. Web 2 is what we are actually using every day right now. Web 2 is the internet of communication. There was not only one-sided information exchange, but now all of a sudden we had created a world in which, driven by mobile, like the iPhone, and by cloud, like Amazon Web Services, for example, social media platforms like Facebook, TikTok, I don't know what was there, MySpace when I started, that had created an entire globally connected internet, or more or less globally connected, because there's still so many billion people who don't access the internet. But at least what it had done is created a technologically driven platform for all of humanity to communicate with each other in a very cost efficient way. Right? So what the internet, the first internet, did was to make information available globally at nearly zero cost. The second innovation then of Web 2 was to make communication available at nearly zero cost. Nowadays, I can just dial into the internet and then I can send a message instant, with like almost instantly, and with pictures from my friends to my mother who lives in Vietnam, for example. Right? What I cannot do so easily right now is to send her money. We already have a few kind of different use cases where we have already reduced frictions in the exchange of value or monetary value, but we haven't really fixed that issue globally. However, we are now entering a world in which globalization has kind of come through. It's fairly easy to travel from A to B, like from Germany. Within Europe, for example, now since 2 decades, we have the common currency. We can basically just travel back and forth without border controls when we're within the continent. And so a lot of progress has happened in terms of globalization. We can work almost globally, remotely, have different infrastructure for that. But what is at the verge of happening is what people call the Internet of Value. Internet of Value is basically the network that makes the exchange of value. And we can discuss what is value. That is different. And that links maybe also back to the idea of saying, what is well-being? What is the value, or something that I stand up every day for to see happening and contribute to happening in the world? What is the Internet of Value? How can I exchange, create a network in which whatever we deem valuable, and that is not always what is profitable, right, can be exchanged from peer to peer in a very cost-efficient manner. And this is the technology called distributed networks, on which we have an incentive mechanism or a coordination mechanism called a token, or a digital asset that can then be transferred from A to B, that can contain any kind of what we as a community agree on as being valuable to us at the value that we have assigned to it. Right? So we create a network in which everything can be tokenized in the future. You already see a first few use cases that houses are being tokenized, for example. I think yesterday was the news that somebody tokenized their house and they sold it out in maybe a few minutes. It was worth $250,000 and so on. So every day when you read the news, you will find something new being tokenized. And we will end in a place in which not too far from today, we have 2023 today, maybe by 2030, and we live in a world in which it is as common for us to send tokens from me, from Yip to Agama, you to your friends, in the way it is normal for you to send a picture to your best friend, right? And also when you create a value for the community, such as creating a feed on Twitter or on Instagram, and you get a lot of likes and a lot of interactions, it will most likely be linked to some value that will end up in your own wallet, compared to today's world, in which most of the value that is being created by communication we provide goes to centralized providers. So what does it actually mean? What are the basic ingredients of this Web3? And I will not speak too much about it today, because this is a 6 weeks learning journey that you will have, where you will go and deep dive into all the different parts of the ecosystem. But mainly what you will see is, instead of having an account on your mobile phone, such as a WhatsApp number, you will have something called a wallet. That wallet will guard certain features that help you to access that internet, and then to sign transactions and send value from A to B. You will also notice that you will not necessarily need to go through intermediaries in order to reach other people, in order to send them value. So that's called decentralization. Peer-to-peer, that's called peer-to-peer. Decentralization is a very tricky term, because you can look at decentralization on different layers of the technology stack meaning the different layers of the technology platforms and ingredients that are being used to enable this communication or value exchange over the internet. But you can also look at it from a social perspective. So what is very radical about Internet of Value is, with the invention or introduction of Bitcoin, which is the largest of these digital projects at the moment, we have created a system in which complying to the rules of the system is more profitable than cheating the system. Right? That was made possible through the technology, but more importantly, through the incentive coordination mechanism with all the stakeholders. And the way Bitcoin did that is to use mathematical models and then game theory to optimize for reward mechanisms that will go inside the ecosystem. So what it did was, it created a world in which self-regulation can take place. It's like your body, your human body. You can breathe without really telling your body to breathe, right? Because your body kind of does things by itself. When you're like, how do you say, excited, then you might breathe faster because you need more air. And so is the mechanism in Bitcoin, in that, when more people participate, then certain incentives are automatically adopted, and then the system self-regulates so that the balance within the system can stay and everyone has an incentive to contribute to the ecosystem. It sounds very abstract right now, but you will have time to read the Bitcoin white paper, try to understand what's happening, try to understand why people are currently so crazy after this asset, of which we don't even know the creator. That was 2008, the white paper, and then 2009 was the first implementation of Bitcoin, the go live of that network, which until today is the only fully decentralized ecosystem. And I will put a disclaimer here to say that even when people claim Bitcoin is very decentralized, it is not decentralized too much when you look behind the nuts and bolts. And the beautiful thing about Unit Masters program is you are the driver of your own learning journey. So you can decide how deep you want to go into the technical, into the economic understanding of each of the ecosystems. Or you can also decide to just understand what is Bitcoin. It was the first network that went live, was decentralized. It came 2009. We don't know who is the inventor, right? And right now, it's the project with the largest market cap. in this Web3 economy? How big is this Web3 economy? In order to answer this question, you can always go to a website that is called coinmarketcap.com. That's my favorite place to start. It's the same as in when you wanted to know what is the current market size of the US economy, you would look at the indices like Fortune 500 and see who are the biggest players. So in the Web3 economy, we go to coinmarketcap.com and then we will look, and in the paragraph on top, you would see something such as, oh, the total market capitalization of all listed digital asset projects is 1.1 trillion US dollars right now, maybe. And you can get a feeling for how big is that actually in reality. And I typically go to another website that is called 8marketcap.com. That website has all the different projects with market caps, and you would see the largest top projects in the entire world nowadays by market capitalization would be technology and oil and gas and probably pharma companies. And I had a quick look today, this morning, and I think the entire crypto market cap, like the Web3 market economy, is not even the size of Amazon, right? So all projects together in Web3 are 1.1 trillion US dollars. The largest of it is Bitcoin, which is nearly 50% of the market capitalization. And then the next project is Ethereum. Ethereum came into play in 2015. It went live in July in that year. So that is less than 10 years ago. And it was invented by then he was only 20 or 21 years old, Vitalik Buterin. And he had this idea of creating a world computer. And because he noticed, he was a big researcher and believer or fan of Bitcoin, the first network that enabled peer-to-peer electronic cash transmission. So what you could do is like send a digital asset called Bitcoin from one wallet to another wallet. Wallets are owned by typically users without any intermediary, fully automated. Then basically, he noticed, wow, it would actually be cool if we could do more things than just send money from one wallet to another, right? We can use technology to create application software that executes certain activities when certain conditions are met. So he basically built a network called Ethereum. This is nowadays the second largest project in the market. And it was deemed to be the first distributed or decentralized world computer. And what it did was, okay, now you could send a digital asset called Ether from one wallet to another wallet, from one user to another user. And then basically you can also create different functions, logic, execution logic. And he came up with something we call the smart contracts now. Smart contracts is being deemed as one of the key innovations of the Ethereum ecosystem. So that means on top of that layer of payments, you can have an application layer and you can do fun things. And then after that, 2000, it went very well for a few years, but then the core team split and the different co-founders, they launched their own projects because they had different visions of how this Web3 economy can best be built. So out of it came projects like Cardano, Polkadot, what came? Cardano, Polkadot. There's another project called Avalanche that was also founded by one of the people very close to Ethereum, and so on. I want to show it to you because I am reading in the chat that some people cannot understand my pronunciation of the different websites. So I'm going to show it to you. 1 second. Sharing my screen in a second.
Thank you, Yip. You did mention CoinMarketCap, and it was the second one that they couldn't get. After CoinMarketCap, you did mention another one.
This is it. You're seeing my screen, and this is 8marketcap, as you can see here, infinite market cap. Okay. And this is like all the assets that are ranked by market capitalization, which is a terminology that is used often in the business world to tell how big is a project. You use the market capitalization of it, which is the price by one piece of that asset times all the pieces of the asset. So here, for example, we can see market cap of gold is $13 trillion. And then the second largest project in the world by capitalization is Apple. Apple has 2.5 trillion US dollars market capitalization. This is quite a lot. Right? That is maybe the same as the GDP of many economies in the world. So then you can go here, you can see Microsoft, then Saudi Aramco, which is a oil and gas company. Then you have another American tech company called Alphabet. Then you have another asset, silver commodity. Then Amazon, which is 1 trillion US dollars. And this is about the market size of the entire crypto economy. Right? And when you look at this list, what you can typically see is a lot of these projects are American tech-based finance companies, and then a few oil and gas companies. And then you can see Tencent, which is a Chinese company. But overall, what you can say, looking at this chart nowadays, is the most influential or valuable projects in the world are technology-driven projects as of today, 2023. And one would assume, if you asked me for projections going forward, I would say, 7-10 years from now, this list will still be dominated by technology companies, but maybe not the ones that we're seeing today that are representative of Web 2. Right? What did Apple invent? It was the inventor of the MacBook, of iTunes, the MP3 players, of the iPhone. So that are all products that we use in Web 2, the Internet of Communication. Microsoft has invented these operating systems. And these are tools that we use in order to reduce costs of communication. And the next evolution of the Internet will be made of companies that will create value and will be valued by society for their contribution to reducing the cost of value exchange, because communication cost is already zero. So then we go to this website, which is a deep dive of the economy. And this is the deep dive into the Web3 economy. It's called Coin Market Cap, coin because it stands for the term coin, and then the market cap of all coins. And then typically you see here, you can read more if you like, but here it says the global crypto market cap is 1.18 trillion. Right? So this is like the value of all these listed projects in this index that consists of all the different digital asset projects that are out there. And the largest one is Bitcoin. It's also the oldest one. Then the second one is Ethereum. One little thing, because a lot of people who are not familiar with the business world, they look at the price and then they say a project is, wow, so expensive or good or high price and so on. But what typically you should look at is the market capitalization, right? Because it's like a cake, and some cakes, can be split into more small pieces, and then the price is smaller. And some people split the cake only by 3 pieces, and then one piece has a higher price because there's only 2 pieces. So when you make comparisons between projects, look at market capitalization, not so much at the price. So you look at the market cap and you can see that, for example, Bitcoin is almost half of the market cap, and then Ethereum is half the size of Bitcoin. And then Tether, which is a stable coin, which always has, or almost always has, the value of $1 US, is here with 77 billion of market capitalization. And you can go down and down and down, and you can see all the different names that to you might not make any sense. But just think of it as that might be future Googles, Amazons, Metas, and so on. There's Shiba Inu, Uniswap, and so on. And maybe right now you cannot understand much of it, but you've seen it for the first time. And then going forward for the next 6 weeks, we will have opportunity to discuss and look into what do they stand for, what services do they provide for the economy. Are they like a financial service provider? Are they more like a technology provider? Are they more like a computer network? Are they doing banking services? Whatever is their unique proposition to the economy, you will understand moving forward. I just wanted to for you to see this. Okay. Then maybe let me just look at my smart list of what things I also wanted to share with you. So Web3 is the next evolution of the internet, I already mentioned. It's not only about the technology, but it's really a new paradigm of value exchange where everyone has equal access to participate and benefit from the internet economy. What it does is, in a sense, if you know how to code a smart contract, to deploy a smart contract on any of these permissionless networks, you can create something where you can raise funds like digital assets from all across the globe anytime. Right? Of course, depending on where you are, you have certain regulatory supervision, but in fact, what we are seeing right now is whoever understands code, whoever understands technology is at a crazy advantage over everyone else. This is why, for example, we created Unit Masters, because we actually do not want people to be left behind just because the tech world is using terminology that doesn't make sense for anyone, right? We should not be scared of the technology, but we should learn how to embrace, to make the best use of it, because it's not going to go away. So a few terms you will learn over the next weeks is like, what is this blockchain? What is a smart contract? What does peer-to-peer mean? What is permissionless? What is custodial? What is non-custodial? But really, I just drop all these terms so that I'm planting a seed. And then later on, over the time, you will water your own seeds and see what's happening out of it. And the key message I want to leave you with this talk is actually to pay good attention of what makes an ecosystem, who are the players in the ecosystem. You can imagine the Web3 economy right now as being different islands with different languages, with different currencies, with different culture and values. And these islands, they are spread across a map, and not all the islands are connected yet. So they're somewhere in the ocean. And depending on which island you look at, they somehow are similar, but actually they are different, right? And one island would be the Bitcoin island, with the Bitcoin as a currency, and then with some fundamental values and philosophies that the participants in the Bitcoin ecosystem, cherish and build upon. And then you have the Ethereum ecosystem, which in itself is a separate island with its own digital currency. But Ethereum is so big now that there are different tokens that are built in the Ethereum ecosystem, and there are small little islands around that big Ethereum island that have been built using the same Ethereum technology. And then there might be another ecosystem called Solana ecosystem. That's a different island. And between some islands, you can already use transportation methods. They are typically called bridges. And you can convert your currencies, like one Solana, you can maybe convert already to one Ethereum. And in other ecosystems, you have to use an exchange in the same way as if you were to convert, I don't know, the Nigerian naira to US dollars. You would need to use an exchange to do that, a service provider. So the entire Web3 economy is made of the same idea, that as of now, we are so early in the ecosystem that a lot of infrastructure that is needed to connect all these islands hasn't been built yet. And every day we discover or we build new islands, and some islands just sink because they did not withhold the waves and natural catastrophes. And the crypto ecosystem is very young, and it's highly exposed to macroeconomic conditions. So what you have been, maybe if you've read the news recently, there was a lot of news about Bitcoin rising Bitcoin in the past 7 days probably increased by around 8 to 10%, if I'm not really mistaken. And that is all linked to, major decisions from internationally influential governmental bodies or non-governmental bodies that influence interest rates, for example. What happens when interest rates rise? Then people who are dependent on interest rates or organizations that are dependent on interest rates, such as banks, might go bankrupt. And we've seen that in the past 2 weeks or 3 weeks, a few major banks were really at trouble, even including one of the oldest European banks in Switzerland had been bought up by another bigger European bank, which was quite a shock to the economy. And then people were like, oh, if we cannot trust banks anymore to keep our assets safe, what can we do? And all of a sudden you see price hikes in the real estate market, you see price hikes in the Bitcoin that is deemed to be an alternative asset. Then you saw a lot of, in the past year, you saw a lot of economic crises like inflations in many different countries, war between Russia and Ukraine, and people were looking for how can they keep their assets secure. And many people looked into blockchain, and many people fell victim also to a lot of scam in the blockchain world, in the crypto world. So as we are just starting our journey together in Unit Masters, I also want to make you aware that this is full of opportunities for you to build the next project that will be the next Amazon or Google of Web3. But also be aware that you need to be very careful, because where there is value to be made, there's also a lot of people who think it's very attractive to steal other people's value and hard labor. And there's a lot of scams. So when you deal with any kind of assets online, please be super careful. Check the basics security principles. You can find a lot of information online, or even tomorrow in tomorrow's workshop, which is a wallet workshop that we do. You can ask the instructor to share with you what are easy ways to understand the risks and to keep your assets, in case you decide to have any assets, secure. With that said, really, it's a great opportunity for everyone to learn the basics, like skill up, and then build systems, contribute to systems, and build a world for tomorrow that is made equitable and just, and with participation and rewards of everyone who contributes to it. Thank you very much for listening. I'll be in for another 10 minutes for questions. And maybe Agama, you can help me moderate.
Thank you so much, Yip. That was a brilliant presentation. And now, everyone, it's time for questions. If you do have questions, please put it in the chat, and I'll be reading them out to Yip. So there are a few questions here already, but I'll take it from the beginning. And this is from Omel. It says, what makes an ecosystem and who are the players in the ecosystem?
Well, this is actually a homework question for you guys, because we will look at the ecosystem and try to dissect. And I will not give an answer to that, because I really want you to study the ecosystem. But an ecosystem, like in nature in general, is a conglomerate of different contributors that are in relationship to each other. And the nature of the relationship can have different characteristics, right? For example, an ecosystem might be as simple as your company and then all its suppliers, all its employees, the media, to the ecosystem. So an ecosystem is really a dynamic kind of interplay of a conglomerate of different actors. And these actors have different interests and different contributions to the ecosystem, but all together, because of their interrelations, they make the ecosystem.
Okay, Thank you, Yip. At this time, I have enabled our students to be able to unmute. I think it'll be great to actually hear the voices of people ask their questions. And so if you have a question, please feel free to unmute your mic and ask away. We have a couple of minutes left.
Hi, it's Omena. I actually had a different question. I wasn't asking about that. I just wrote what she said because I couldn't copy and paste. But my questions are related around when she was talking about market capitalization. In my mind, I was wondering if that was similar to what we call volume, like just looking at how many people are purchasing a particular coin or how they're moving, lifestyle, that whole thing. Like I was just trying to understand if market capitalization was similar to what volume is to a stock. That's the first question.
Yeah, market capitalization is a typical term when you just mathematically, when you take the shares, or in the Web3 world, you would take the total token supply, and then you multiply it by the price of that token. So in the traditional world, the corporate world, it would be the stock, the number of stocks out there times the price gives the market capitalization. And in the blockchain world, it's the number of tokens times the price at which this asset is traded on the different crypto markets. And that gives you a indication for how big is the project. It's just one of the indicators to look at market capitalization in order to get a first sense of how big. It's similar to when you look at a country and you would understand how big is this country. You can look at, the number of citizens it has, the population, or you can look at the value of its economy in terms of GDP, or you can look at, I don't know, the general health of that population or its ranking in human rights standing. So there's different indicators, and market valuation is one of the economic indicators of an ecosystem.
Thank you so much. That was so well explained, and I'm going to shut up after this. Last question is, when you said that there was a service provider needed to exchange, or how we can exchange different tokens of value from different countries, just like if I was doing money exchange, is that service provider a third party, or does it happen within the blockchain?
Yes, this is a very good question. So there's different ways to do that. The old traditional way is to go to a centralized exchange, which would be like a foreign exchange when you think of the traditional money market, like US dollars, and you want to exchange to Japanese yen, then you would go to an exchange, like to your bank that might have access to an exchange, and then bring your dollars and get the yen. And when you think of the crypto markets, you have that option too. These players are called big players like Binance, for example, or Coinbase, or one of the largest players last year that went bankrupt was FTX after the scandal. So there are decentralized providers. You could also use software like smart contracts embedded in decentralized exchanges to do these transactions. And this is called a DEX, a decentralized exchange, where you can swap different cryptocurrencies into other different cryptocurrencies. But in order to then get this back into your bank account, your traditional bank account that might work with US dollars or whatever a currency that is used in the country where you live, you would need to use something called an off-ramping provider. So these are different technical specificities that you will learn in week 2 of Unit Masters program.
Great. Thank you, Yip. And we have Walters. Walters, please go ahead and ask your question.
It's a fairly simple one to answer, I think. Where do sort of private blockchains, for example, where a company employs a blockchain chain to track its supply chain, where do they sit in terms of Web3?
Yes, so they are also representatives of Web3 because they are distributed networks too. there are a few use cases coming again, but I would say a few years ago, there was quite a hype with these enterprise blockchains, as they are called, so that different consortia of big companies can have a common means, a network to exchange value. Hyperledger was one of the promised ones, Quora, but over the past 2 years, 3 years, they have lost popularity because a few projects have also stopped the collaboration. However, recent months, I have the feeling, but this is to be validated, that they are picking up again, where networks of companies that might not be in the same legal jurisdictions are finding ways or having a need to collaborate along the value chain. You would think of these supply chains and so on, but I wouldn't be able to name a big breakthroughs in this area as of now. It seems that it's still a bit early stage. In the past few years of development have gone more into the public and the permissionless ecosystems, which means everyone has the right to the blockchains.
Yeah, I would say that sort of thing. As I mentioned, the example of the supply chain is a very valid application for a use case for blockchain, and I'm surprised that it's faded in its popularity. But as you say, it's coming back again, so I may be proven right.
There were a lot of use cases that people have thought blockchain to be able to solve, and then it didn't deliver up to the promises. But one of the reasons why these programs might not yet have been successful is because it did not reach enough market size. It was maybe similar to e-commerce. It took years to develop business models in e-commerce that would be profitable. Like it took a decade of experimentation of an entire industry. And until today, many e-commerce business models that are really big are still not profitable, but are still venture capital or private equity backed. So we are in a similar stage of the industry in Web3 right now.
Yeah, I guess that, sorry, I don't mean to go on, but I guess that a couple of problems that have held it back is performance, and also the fact that you can't store an awful lot of data on a blockchain, so you need to use it in conjunction with another technology to make it useful in other use cases other than crypto.
Yeah. Right now, for example, one of these technologies that is very en vogue, and we see different implementations of it, is called zero knowledge proof. For example, where you can have an interlayer between off-chain, which means like traditional data storage providers and entities that are part of the network that just provide a proof that something is correct, and then downstream activities can be transacted over the blockchain network to circumvent that problem that you just described. So new and more tools and interfaces are popping up that support a thriving ecosystem. I would say we are maybe at a stage where really like these islands, we have maybe cities in the islands. Not all the cities on these islands are well connected yet. Some might have some kind of major road, and along these roads, we need to have gas stations and hotels and whatever, charging stations and so on. And more we are seeing this popping up, but the ecosystem is very far away from being fully complete yet. So a lot of opportunity to come in and help build it.
Thank you.
Great. So let's quickly move on to our next question. Asta, please go ahead and ask your question.
What does it mean to tokenize and how to do it?
Wow, this is a topic where you can write a PhD study about it. To tokenize something means to bring the anticipated value of that something into a digital container. So you create a digital container that models whatever value this idea that house and so on represents, that is there, and you make it tradable. That is basically to tokenize. How you do it, there's many, many, many different variations, and every ecosystem has a different philosophy. And also there are technical and legal implementations, because even if you put your house onto the blockchain, like you tokenize it, you create a digital asset that is deployed on chain, who will buy it? Because, you know, just because someone buys a token that says it has a claim on your house, how would I be able to enforce it? And why would I buy a claim on your house? So there needs to be business models, there needs to be ways to make it tradable, there needs to be ways to enforce the claimability. And wherever you look, people are coming up with different models of how to make that possible. So yeah, this is something you will have plenty of time to research. They should research because it's quite interesting. And there's no real solution for it yet, like no breakthrough solution for that yet.
Amazing. Thank you, Yip. And the last question by voice will be from Isipa. Afterwards, I'll go ahead and read a few questions in the chat, and that'll be it. So Isipa, please go ahead.
Hello.
Yeah, hello.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. So I wanted to say that I love the explanation that was just given. It was very literally on point, and she made a point by pointing out everything with the analogy she was giving. But one thing I wanted to add is that the blockchain technology is an evolving space. I know some people get to make a mistake of looking at it like static, literally understanding of you understand it immediately and then you move right into it. But is it space that keeps changing? And do not forget the purpose it came to solve the financial problem, just giving back the power to the users. And that's just the main goal. And another thing that disrupts it mostly is that it's an ever-evolving space with so much liquidity, so much financial gains, and people are taking advantage of it, which is crumbling the whole purpose of the space. So it's a space that provides so many opportunities by giving us powers to make use of our own information, to make use of our own value, to create value by ourselves, and to be able to detect how the value goes. So what I would say is, what I would advise most people is that try to understand the space try to come down to understand the space as something that is there to solve a problem. And the problem gets to be solved each day. People develop smart contracts, people develop techniques, people develop an idea, new methods coming, people develop new ways of solving a present problem. And another thing is that a lot of people are taking advantage of others in this space, because you'll be surprised. I know a lot of people that backed away from the space because of maybe their experiences and all. If you not take the right measures, the space may be detrimental instead of progressive to you. So taking the right measures of protecting yourself, protecting your accounts and all, and protecting your wallets, protecting every passwords you have, and making sure you do not click on the wrong links is very important. Just as you're learning about the space, the most important thing is learning the security measures, because you can work for like a whole year on an important thing and someone just rips it up. There are people in this space that their job is to do this. I have a friend that's Arbitrum token was just launched, I think today, some few minutes ago, got an airdrop. And trying to claim it back, everything has already been wiped out by someone else. So it's a part you should also take note of. As you take note of learning, it's the most important. Yeah, the most important is also learning the security. So thank you.
Thank you, Isikba. Thank you. That was great. Yeah, so back to the questions. We have a question
Agama,
from...
Can we take one more question only? Because I would need to leave.
Yeah, so we'll take this last question. and then well. And so this says, is Web3 only about adding issues related to economy and finance? Is there any other uses of blockchain? I guess.
Wow.
That's
So in week 5 of your 6 weeks course, the task will be to reflect and integrate all the learnings you've had from the first 5 weeks and write a speech. Oh, I should not spoil, but I will spoiler. It's a reward for those who are present today. Your assignment will be to write a speech from the perspective of the year 2030, and you being a leader in the environment you are in, might it be mayor of a city or president of a country or whatever it is, and reflect back to speak about the accomplishments of the usage of blockchain to improve the well-being of the citizens or population in your area of responsibility. So with that said, there are ways to use blockchain for good. There's entire databases. We will speak about that in week 5 of this program. So stay tuned and stay engaged and stay there to really understand how to make this technology work for good. How, if you feel so, to be contributing on the bright side of things and not on the stealing side of things. We already heard from previous student speaker that there's a high risk for cybercrime. Just because, like, right now in WhatsApp and wherever, in Facebook and Instagram or TikTok, they can steal your account and they get access to your pictures, your phone number, and maybe to your bank account. But in Web3, if people hack you, they get access to all your assets. And because they can do that, there's a higher incentive to hack in Web3, right? Because you're not only stealing pictures or access to profiles, but you're stealing access to digital assets. So with human nature, we are very creative and inventive. So we create these systems, and then others also have an incentive to improve the system by hacking the vulnerabilities. And then we need people who basically can create these systems who are secure. And it all starts with understanding the basic fundamentals of how the system works. And then to pick a side where you want to be. You want to be the one providing the frameworks, the regulation about it. Do you want to be the one contributing with upskilling, educating your peers in your local ecosystem? Do you want to be the one building the ecosystem in a very secure way? Do you want to be the one building the services that make the ecosystem just and equitable, or like smooth and user-friendly? It's not very user-friendly right now. We're in so early stage. And all of these things are open to you, but first let's get the basic blockchain literacy right. I want to give a shout out also really to all the study group leads who are thriving this program, to our community managers like Agama, who's been with the program for more than a year and has always been supportive in managing the content and the certification process. Even if you feel sometimes, you feel like, oh, you submitted something and it was not seen, then you can make a request in the student groups, in the Telegram chat groups. But also want to invite everyone to keep the communication respectful, because everyone is contributing and working very, very hard. And in the past, sometimes I have felt a bit upset with the vocabulary or the language or the tone used from students asking the team for support when the team was working really, really hard to provide all the best support possible to all of you to go through this journey and receive your certificates at the end of the program. So please support each other and keep learning, all of us. Thank you for your presence.
Thank you so much, Yip. That was amazing. And like Yip has said earlier, Yip is the founder of Unit Masters. And so when she said she didn't want to spoil she didn't want to give a spoiler to week 5, I was actually laughing. But then we get to week 5, and then you actually get to put something down like Yip has said. And also everyone can contribute to the Web3 space. And the beauty of Unit Masters is that you have the basic knowledge, and that helps you determine where you want to contribute, right, in the whole space. And we are here for you. We provided the content. We're bringing more speakers. Every week, we're experts in the industry and to come speak on the different topics. And we hope that in the end, this will be very rewarding for every one of you. And we look forward to your participation. And with that, I say thank you so much, Yip, for spending time with us today. And sorry we kept you longer than we should, but we do appreciate you. We appreciate everything you have put into the Unit Master program, and look forward to seeing more of you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. And so everyone, tomorrow we'll have another session, which will be from one of the executives at Subwallet. So please make it a date with us. We'll be here same time, 3 p.m. UTC, right? And it will be a demo session. So we look forward to seeing every one of you. Enjoy the rest of your day.